So a couple weeks ago, Royal Dutch Shell, who you may just know as Shell, the oil company, was forced by a court ruling to cut their emissions by 45%. Climate activists took them to court, and the court agreed with the climate activists and said, yes, you shall, by 2030, have to cut your emissions by 45%. Essentially, this was to put Royal Dutch Shell in line with the Paris Climate Accords, which I believe Holland is a party to. So what does this mean for you, the average person, or in either the Netherlands or in the US? So the first and most important takeaway from this particular story is that fighting works. And arguing in a legal context that we are being harmed by these organizations, by their misbehavior, apparently is enough to sway judges. Now, Shell, for its part, has said it's going to appeal the ruling and yada yada, but there is an opinion out there somewhere in Dutch court saying that essentially the harms that Shell is causing by its behavior today, the tomorrow harms that it's causing by its behavior today, are unlawful, are illegal almost. So it is really important for us to remember this when we go forward, to think about the possibility of, hey, what if we are able to change the way, use the court systems, use the legal systems to change the way these companies operate to help save our future. Now, I don't know if we're past the point of no return on climate. I really hope we're not. I really hope there's something we can do with it. But this gives me hope that there is at least some reason left, something in the legal and judicial systems that we can do to fight back against these corporations that are robbing us of our future. And if, climate activists in Holland can do it, I think climate activists anywhere can do it. The second thing to take note of is that while these companies begin to cut back, there is a mild difficulty ingrained in this, which is society has to move away from fossil fuels and away from non-renewable sources of energy. So as these companies are forced to reduce the amount, so certain companies are forced to reduce the amount of emissions they create, there's a race to the bottom type economics here, where if Shell can't do the emissions, then another company, Gulf, might, because they see that there's an opening in the market and they'll just go and fill it, because that's how capitalism works. You fill as much as the market as you possibly can. One second. You fill as much of the market as you possibly can in order to maximize your profit share. So not only do we need to have courts telling these organizations that you need to reduce your carbon emissions by certain huge margins, the next thing you have to do is you have to make sure that society is also making the demand for these products much lower, such that it becomes both a market imperative and a legal imperative to reduce the amount of emissions and to change the way that we participate in our environment. Because if we don't, this is going to become a wild goose chase. We will never, ever do it, because there will always be some market. So, switch to electric, funds to switch to electric cars or to improve mass transit and things like that. The answers to change this, to save ourselves from climate catastrophe, in theory, are in front of us. So we have to participate with them. We have to make sure that rulings like this are actually good. Not to say they're actually good, but are actually help effectuate a cleaner climate for tomorrow. Because if we don't change what we're doing in line with some of these legal decisions, then we don't actually make any progress. Then the ruling will have been for nothing.